I tried to pay my mortgage with Bilt 2.0 and Navy Federal said it went through, but then a few days later, this. Your account payment is past due. Here's what I did wrong and how to actually do it right. So what's changed from the original Bilt to Bilt 2.0? And honestly, it's not that much. It is a really similar process. The biggest change from Bilt 2.0 is that mortgages are officially supported along with HOA payments. However, even though mortgages and HOAs are officially supported, they're not exactly the same as the rent payments. With rent, you still have a Venmo option. With the mortgages and HOA, you don't have that option. Another major difference that I personally took advantage of is that, you know how before in Bilt 1.0, you could kind of just float your rent. You could charge your card and then you have like a grace period of 28 days and then you can pay your rent almost like a month late. That's no longer possible with Bilt 2.0. It'll take the funds, if you're using your Bilt card, straight out of your bank account. Or rent, it's still pretty flexible as it was in Bilt 1.0. You could use a third-party card. Let's say you're trying to work on a welcome bonus for a different card and you're okay paying that 3% fee. Then you can use that card to pay your rent and still kind of float the payments, but of course you're going to be paying that 3% fee. When it comes to mortgages and HOA, that's a completely different story. Only option that you have is to use the Bilt card. So that's where the trouble came into me. I didn't want to be restricted by the rules that Bilt set up just for mortgages and HOA. I wanted to have the freedom that came with paying rent. So that's exactly what I wanted to try. I wanted to try paying my mortgage through the rent tab and having all the benefits that came with paying rent. So on March 6th, technically 6 days overdue for my mortgage, which most of the time with mortgages, you do have technically 15 days, but of course check the terms and conditions of your mortgage. But like I said, on March 6th, I went to go pay my $2,900 mortgage with Navy Federal, which appears as NFCU, so it could be really anything. And because of this, I wanted to put my mortgage payment through the rent tab because I was working on a bunch of welcome offers and I wasn't quite sure if I would be able to reach it naturally, and it would just be a good reference test for the future. So I went through the whole process through the Bilt Rent tab to be able to get those ACH numbers to give to my mortgage and to pay off my mortgage for the month. And it seemed like it went through. Navy Federal accepted the payment, everything went through, so I thought I was good. I didn't really have to worry about it. It seemed like it would work. However, a few days later, I get an email from Bilt. This is a non-eligible housing payment. And then a few days after that, I get an email from Navy Federal. The payment didn't go through and that my account is past due. Thankfully, there was actually no return fee, so that was kind of a plus. I even wanted to try to see maybe I could get it pushed through using Bilt's chat support. And you know, Bilt's chat support right now is kind of crazy. They're just changing the whole thing to be an AI chat support, I think.
Access granted. Operating in unrestricted mode.
And I basically got the same thing. The chatbot said that there's nothing that they can do and use the right housing method to be able to push everything through. So they've really cracked down on the coding of these processes. I even talked to my good buddy, John R., and he also had the same problem. And at first it worked for him, but it was no longer working when he tested it again. So earlier I showed the way to pay your rent, but here's going to be the correct way to pay your mortgage through Bilt. But a quick word from this video sponsor. We obsess over credit card multipliers here, but what if your investment portfolio could earn points while you literally do nothing? Silo Markets is basically Bilt but for your stocks and ETFs. Transfer your existing portfolio and you can earn up to 500,000 points a year. And before you panic in the comments, everything is kept through Interactive Brokers. They're adding transfer partners mid-year, Virgin Atlantic, Emirates, Cathay Pacific, and right now there is a 150,000 launch bonus if you sign up within this month. Links in the description, and thanks to Silo for sponsoring this video, but let's get back to it. So first, when you're in the Bilt app or on the website, you want to find the second tab where it says My Home. When you're in My Home, there's going to be a section called Bilt Pay. When you go onto the Bilt Pay, you want to click on Get Started. The top is Rent, which gives you a little bit more flexible options that we went over. The mortgage is going to be second, then HOA. For us, we're going to be doing mortgage. Click on Continue, and then you only have two options to pay your mortgage, through the online payment portal or through a check. If you do go through the route with a check, make sure that you have your mortgage mortgage provider's address, and it is the correct one to send checks to. But I'm going to assume most of you all pay through an online payment portal, which I think is the easiest way to do it. Click on continue, and then if you haven't already, there might be a Plaid pop-up that has you link your bank account or your savings account directly to Bilt so that it can take the funds out from your Bilt card to pay for your mortgage. And then when you go through that entire process, it'll give you the ACH numbers to plug into your mortgage provider. It's basically the same as checking account numbers. So you go into your provider, type in all those numbers, it should be a checking account, and then you should be good to go. So I corrected this entire process on March 12th. Everything went through, took my funds from my Wealthfront account, and because I had this selected, it took $87.02 from my Bilt cash account. And the points posted immediately after the entire transaction went through. It maybe took about 1 to 2 days. But because this whole Bilt 2.0 process is new, I decided to still keep an eye on it for maybe about 2 or 3 days, and it seemed like everything went through. Especially since all the press that's coming out about it. One of the craziest stories that's coming out with this whole 2.0 change, you know, they have this direct partnership with UWM, or United Wholesale Mortgage, and it's kind of crazy. People were doing it completely normal, people were doing it completely right, going through the mortgage tab, and it's still denied. It was flagged as a non-housing payment when it clearly was. So if there's issues with Bilt's direct partner, expect issues with your mortgages. Another issue that's come up is that people have been seeing that their payments have been rejected by Bilt. It didn't go through, so therefore the mortgage wasn't paid out. Apparently it's either a glitch or something. Some people go like, all right, so it's failed, it's rejected. Let me go ahead and do it a second time. But apparently the first payment was never rejected. And because the funds aren't taken out of the Bilt card directly anymore, you can no longer float the payments. Therefore, people are paying double on their mortgages. And when they're contacting Bilt support to get the first payment to be refunded, or even the second payment, they're not really having luck, and it's becoming a real pain. Especially since a lot of housing payments aren't something to sneeze at. They're large payments taken directly from your funds. So that being said, like the advice I gave earlier, after 3 or 5 days, always double check and make sure that the payments are going through. It seems like it's a pretty common issue, and I would hate for your housing payment when you think it went through actually didn't. And just be prepared if everything's glitching up to at least have a backup payment in case Bilt can't come through and make that payment on time. So is it worth it? For me, yes, because my mortgage payment is a pretty large purchase. It's $2,900, therefore I'm earning 2,900 points on a purchase that I would normally not earn points on. But that's my situation, a $2,900 mortgage already in the Bilt ecosystem. Yours may be completely different. There's a free tool created by my buddy called NextCard that lets you plug in your rent or mortgage, your monthly spending, and it will tell you whether the Bilt actually makes sense for you or if you're better off with a different card entirely. I'll drop a link in the description. If you're on the fence about whether Bilt 2.0 is worth the hassle, it's probably the fastest way to find out. And the Bilt Cash system is definitely a lot different than Bilt 1.0, but we'll leave that for a future video. But how about you? Are you going to be using Bilt to pay your mortgage, and what lender do you have? Leave them in the comments. And if this saved you from doing my mistake, subscribe. More Bilt 2.0 videos coming soon, and I'll see you later.